Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Monument of Stars campaign. Of course, I was on a family trip the other week, so I was not able to cover the most recent event video. That will be going back to normal as far as our schedule with that. Of course, our stream schedule has already been back to normal, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single night. However, since we were not able to really cover a video yet on this, I did want to cover one, and this is primarily still going to be relevant, mostly because we're going to just be going over stuff that happened with Chapter 6 being introduced. So, of course, one of the main things that ended up happening with this is we now have the introduction of a new power gem. Of course, lycanthropy is no longer a thing. It hasn't been for an entire week now. However, we now have a new power gem in its place, of course, and that power gem are potion gems. These can be one of any of the 6 colors in the game, and when they are exploded or destroyed, they will create 7 to 11 of their color. So if it's a red one, it will create 7 to 11 reds, blue, so on and so forth. There's currently, I believe, no way, because the trip itself that we ended up getting this week, I believe, was just dead content that doesn't actually create any. So in the current state of the game, we don't actually have a way of creating this. However, there are ways that you can, some of which are coming pretty soon. With that being said, as far as the things that you can end up getting from the campaign pass, there are a few noteworthy ones. As far as the free-to-play ones, main ones that are relevant are the deed books, of course. You can obtain these at 250 on the free side. There's 3 on the free side and 3 on the paid side. But the free ones are at 250, 550, and 850. So if you're playing free to play, those are the main objectives that you definitely 100% want to make sure you end up getting, as that is pretty much the main reward for doing the free side. As far as the paid side, aside from those 3, we also have 2 Imperials again, as well as a few interesting other drops. The main noteworthy one actually is the weapon, which is rare to say because I feel like campaign passes normally have pretty underwhelming weapons. However, this one is rather interesting. It creates 3 potions of either blue, green, red, yellow, or purple for whatever reason. That is every color except for brown, which is weird because it doesn't actually use brown itself. You'd kind of think like, oh, it would create like one of every single one that it isn't. But nope, it just happens to not create brown even though it uses blue, red. And then it gains an extra turn. So this thing has a lot of potential, mostly because of that second part there, combined with the first part. Automatic gain an extra turn, so kind of rope dart category of weapons. Any hero weapon that has automatic extra turn tends to be viable to at least some capacity, and this one is likely to be no different. While the mana accumulation on this thing is going to be ridiculously random, the fact that you have an automatic extra turn would allow you to set up into a follow-up cast. So if you were to use any of the numerous things that both also have a simultaneous turn while having board control, you could just simply go and destroy the potion gems that you literally just created and get a bunch of value from it immediately. So definitely has quite a bit of potential as far as what can end up doing. The biggest factor will mostly be your mana generating for something that is completely random, and for whatever reason you can't create browns. However, in most situations, most things that have extra turn spam don't necessarily need brown. I guess maybe Mistralis, but obviously it uses 2 other colors as well. So overall, most things that do extra turn spam don't necessarily need access to the brown. So yeah, be interesting to see exactly how that will end up panning out. Pretty solid weapon. And of course, since it is a hero weapon, you can use it with any hero class within the game. Of course, we get the standard maxed out little pet to go with it, the 2 Imperials, a lot of other small junk, a lot of small junk this time around. However, near the end, we end up getting this star, same coloration as the sun, though of course will be used for something else. I'm not sure if we currently know what this will be used for, but it will be used for something either at the end of this season or at some kind of future season, hopefully at the end of this season. So far, the sun was the only one that ever had one that was delayed to a different season, which of course was the previous season, where it was able to craft one of the 2 Hatter and Scroll related troops. But this thing, as far as what it does, it gives a bunch of magic to a random ally, and then there's a 7% chance per yellow to extra turn. So very similar to the sun. Actually, everything except for the first part of its ability is pretty much the same. I might have slightly different stat lines, but the extra turn chance off a yellow is the same, and if I'm not mistaken, all 3 traits are also the exact same with the good tarot card and all that. If you're getting this free to play, it'll be available several weeks after the campaign. Do keep in mind, if you're still looking to get the moon, it is not in the drop table. So if you're farming the current vault event, or if you're just opening vault keys after the vault event, do be mindful that the moon is still not in the drop table. Should still be a couple weeks before it does. We'll let you know on the Monday video, on the weekly video. When it does happen, they'll probably also do it on the official post when it does end up coming into the game. But at this current moment in time, the moon is not in drop table, so do be mindful of that. And obviously the star is also not in drop table since it's not even released yet. And aside from that, we have ourselves the final reward, the mythic for the season. This is the Fountain of Stars. It converts 5 green gems to purple. One pretty relevant thing to note about this is it does not use purple itself, which is a pretty big downside to this. It does not get to automatically feed straight back into itself like other double converters. And it also gets to convert all browns to skulls. The secondary issue with this is those are not Doom Skulls. So those Doom Skulls will not, those normal skulls will not explode in order to trigger the potions that you just created. So overall, this double convert seems a little weird. It does seem like it's going to be a bit underwhelming compared to other double converts within the game. So I don't know, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. It does get to cleanse all Fey allies, so a pure Fey team could maybe kind of work with it. But overall, it does not seem like it's going to get much value. Really high mana cost, 25. At that point, it's even higher than Hatter and Scroll from last season. That arguably has a better ability. As annoying as Lycanthropy is, it still seems like it'll be better than this. And compared to just using the hero weapon, where you're just going to get 3, though the 3 from it is rather random, but if you're using a team with like all the colors, it shouldn't matter too much, as long as all of them have like a good way to cycle mana back. But I don't know, it's only for green. It's only for purple. It doesn't have a way to feed back on that purple, and it doesn't even have a way to directly explode its gems that it just created. So overall, it just seems like a really weird mix as far as what it does, and does not seem like it's going to be particularly viable. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it will be a lot stronger than it seems. That is a lot of potion gems after all, 5 of them. But it just does seem a little underwhelming. And then you get over to the traits, and it still seems even more underwhelming. The main gimmick it has a chance to bless all allies when its turn begins. In most situations, Mistralis is just going to be stronger because it could just extra turn into a 4 times enchant at 100% rate. Whereas this thing, you have to wait like, 7 turns on average to be able to get a enchant. Obviously, it can happen on turn 1, though the chance that it specifically happens on turn 1 is very unlikely. I really wish they would have made it like the potion effects, which would have made a lot of sense given that it creates potions. But like the potion effects that you get during the objectives where you like get all enchant or all barrier and stuff like that. Currently, we don't have anything like that can start at the beginning of the battle. And while some of those mechanics might be a little bit too strong to start with, like barrier and such, enchant doesn't seem like it would be too broken to have. If nothing else, at least at a 50% chance. That just seems like such a ridiculously low chance to end up triggering. But yeah, it just seems bad in almost every way. And aside from that, the new traditional buff that they did from last season is still in place and will be in place going forward, where they basically buffed all the rewards for the expanded pass, the one that costs $25 instead of the $10 one. Is it worth going for? It's okay value. You get a power orb from it, you get 2 epic vault keys. Do keep in mind, while Vault Event resources were nerfed, the Vault Key rate is still the exact same. So literally just using 1 Nomapalooza, 2 at max, is pretty much already going to give you 2 epic Vault Keys, at least in the current state of the game, unless they're going to nerf it for a 3rd time. But overall, if you're getting this, you're probably getting it for the Power Orb. If you're bothering to get the expanded pass, that's like pretty much the whole reason why you're getting it for the most part. The $15 Power Orb and the few other loots that ends up giving along the way. But the Power Orb's more so the main thing that you would end up getting from it. Anyways, aside from that, let's just go over a few other things real quick. Actually, one of them is still related with the campaign. So, as far as campaign weeks, one nice thing about a new campaign coming into the game is we do actually know what all of the weeks are going to be without even needing to look at any kind of data mines or anything else for the game. Within the game itself, just by looking at the background, as soon as a new season comes out, you actually know what every single season will end up being. So right here, we can see it has a Drifting Sands background. Then next week, we see it's Kazil. And the following week will be Droxzoom. And then we have a Kitar, the undead one. Then we have Blight of Lands. Then we have Whitehelm. Then we have Shantang. Then we have Groshnok. Then we have Zolkiri. And then, of course, it ends with a Bright Forest, which, of course, is also where all these things are from. The pet is from there. I believe the weapon is from there as well. The mythics is from there. All that. Actually, every single thing that comes in generally from the objectives all goes for the kingdom of the final chapter. The final chapter of the 10-chapter week. But as you can see, every single one of these is specifically for Bright Forest, which will, of course, substantially increase the... Why am I going the wrong direction? Bright Forest is over here. Bright Forest, I was going over to Silverglade. That is the location. So this will be able to go up quite substantially and I believe it'll even be able to get its 20 star, which will end up giving it the additional stat of 2 HP by the end of all the season rewards. So that's a nice little extra thing for it. Anyways, as far as a few other things, before we do end up wrapping up, that is still somewhat relevant if you're watching this before the end. So, of course, as far as Soulforge in the most recent week, there's two relevant things, actually kind of three. Two of them are Mythic related. So the main two that are relevant for Mythics this week is either Arachnian Weaver or Lord of Slaughter. If you were to pick one or the other, I'd probably say Arachnian Weaver. Weaver ends up getting used for so many things. It's used for true damage builds. It's used for arguably the best summon in the entire game. It's used for all 3 Guild War color days. And there's a few other instances where you could throw it in as one of the best webs in the entire game, as one of the best values in the entire game if it specifically secures a kill with its cast, as one of the best trait setups in the game, and just overall really solid. The main thing keeping Arachnian Weaver back is a little bit of a slower option compared to other high damage mythics. However, it has a exceedingly high win rate, probably one of the highest win rates, if not the highest win rate probably, of any mythic in the entire game. Pretty sure the devs have data on that, and I'm pretty sure this thing is among one of the absolute highest. It's just absolutely amazing and wonderful in Guild War weeks. And since Guild War is in 2 weeks from now, good idea to have it around. Or technically 8 days from now, 2 Mondays from now. Anyways, other one is Lord of Slaughter. Lord of Slaughter, I would say, is stronger than Arachnian Weaver. However, it is used a lot less, if that makes any sense. The main reason why it is stronger is mostly just the impact that it gets. However, it is not always viable to have an ability that is this strong. It converts 6 browns into Doom Skulls, and then also ends up creates 6 brown, then converts all browns to Doom Skulls, and it also ends up doing some bleeds and death marks onto the enemy. The main thing that's relevant is the sheer amount of Doom Skulls that it ends up creating, as well as the mana accumulation it ends up getting through it. While it has a really high initial mana cost, it gets a lot of it back through its cast itself. And on top of that, it is the only troop in the entire game that has a 100% chance to ignore armor when doing skulls. There are troops that have 50% and one that has a 75% chance. However, it is exclusively, at least in the current moment in time, the only one that has that 100% mechanic. So if you're looking for that really high true damage skull dealer, this is pretty much what you'd have to run, since it is the only thing that can end up doing that mechanic. And on top of that, it also has some armor so it doesn't die as easily, and of course the Doomstorm at start of battle. Quite a few things have this, however, it does synergize very well with everything else that it ends up doing. Overall, really high impact. However, it is used way less than Arachnian Weaver. So Arachnian Weaver, generally the way to go. Main instances you tend to use Lord of Slaughter is if you need an alternative way to run Explore 12. Like, for example, if you don't have a Zugoff yet. Of course, now with Vault events, with the Nomapalooza, that is easier than ever. However, if you're still in a position where you don't have a Zugoff and won't be getting him anytime soon, Lord of Slaughter is a great alternative for running Explore 12 if you're looking for a very viable Explore 12 option. So worth considering that. Plus it's used for some PvP stuff, just for like decimating some things very, very quickly, since it has some pretty absurd skull damage. So overall, pretty nice option. Aside from that, while I wouldn't go out of her way to craft it, Captain McCall, pretty good value. The only reason I would craft it is if you are somehow in the position where you have Mother of Darkness but don't have Captain McCall. The chance of that happening is very unlikely. However, if that is the case, if you have that one mythic, this is insanely good synergy for it, and yeah, would be very powerful to get. Generally, it's not worth getting legends, just because you'd have every legend way before you have every mythic, but if you're in that really rare situation, it might be worth considering. Aside from that, one of the 3 weapons to craft Dustbringer is available this week for the Scarab Nefertani. If you didn't end up picking this up, not too big a deal, because Dustbringer is pretty bad. You pretty much just use Dawnbringer almost every situation. Like, generally use either Dawnbringer or Black Manacles. There's almost no situation where Dustbringer is better than either of the other two. However, it is one of the 3 components for crafting this weapon, so worth considering, at least in that regard, if you still want to pick it up before the end of the weekend, since it is Diamond Day. And aside from that, Doomed Axe. I personally don't feel like I use the yellow to purple convert as much as, or sorry, the purple to Doomscroll convert as much as the other ones. However, it is still one of the 6 really good AoE Doomscroll converting weapons, and for that reason is worth considering. Though I do feel like of the 6, it is on the weaker half of them. It's definitely not on the stronger half, but it's still relevant to have all 6 of them at some point. So if you have the resources for it, is maybe worth considering getting. Aside from that, most of the other things could just pretty much be ignored. And aside from that, we'll end it with the thing that we normally start with, and that is the new Glory Troop that ended up coming in, which isn't really too relevant. I actually completely forget what it does because it's so irrelevant. But as far as the Glory Troop that ended up coming in, it is the Sky Scorpion, ends up poisoning and draining 7 mana from all enemies, and then removes all skulls, can only be cast once. So overall, a bit of a weird ability. It is one of the lower mana costs of any of the ones that can be only cast once. It does still have some value after it has casted in the sense that it has an air link, but overall, it just seems like a really weird mechanic. There are already other things that you can cast if you want a really quick drain, like Sloth and stuff like that you can multicast as well. You don't need to worry about only casting it once. Just seems like a little bit of a weird option, especially since you can only cast it once. Makes it seem even weirder. There are situations where you'd probably draft it in Arena, where it could be okay for your current composition. If you already know you picked up a really solid epic and you just want something to make sure the enemy doesn't really do anything to you. That and the fact that Poison's a lot stronger in Arena as well. But overall, just seems very weird. There's just so many other things that could basically do what it does better. And its first cast value isn't like so absurdly high that you'd want to do it. I feel like that's a big issue with a lot of the cast once only troops, is the value that they get from their single cast is not high enough to justify using them on a team. There are some exceptions to this, like Archdivas with Archdiva, whatever it's called, with Lord of Slaughter and a few other instances like that. Ends up getting some really good value with this one cast only cast. But generally a rule of thumb is every single thing that can only be cast once is useless. What's a pretty funny thing about that too is even Zugoff back in the day. Zugoff was almost never used when he was only able to be cast once. But then when they made him able to cast as many times as you want, he started getting used a lot because then you could just solo an entire battle, particularly in Explore 12, for using such a mechanic. But when he was only cast once, he still wasn't used that much just because it's such a limitation. And there's no way to like cleanse it off. There's nothing like removes it so you can be able to cast it again or anything like that. And if you have multiple in your team, it would still only allow you to use it once. So you can't like use each one once. It's just one for the entire battle, even if you had multiple. So obviously don't use multiple of any of those kind of troops. But it's a mechanic that ended up getting added with Drifting Sands, which is kind of fitting that it is from Drifting Sands. But it never really got fully realized, as a lot of troops just don't do it that well at all. They have abilities that are just like worse than ones that can be casted multiple times over. But anyways, guys, that's everything that we pretty much missed. Oh yeah, we had a new cat for the International Cat Day for last Wednesday. That's pretty much everything that happened in the most recent week. We are back to normal schedule though, so even though this one video was absurdly late, everyone going forward should be back to a normal schedule now that we are back from our trip. So if you guys still have any other questions, anything else you want me to go over, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to do so. Tomorrow we'll be back to normal and have the event video up for the current week, for week 2 of the Chapter 6. And aside from that, we'll still be doing our stream. You've probably already seen we've been back to those, but every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be streaming the game here on the channel. And tonight we'll be going over the spoilers for the week, as well as just messing with the last of the Vault event. And throughout the rest of the week, we'll be, like on Monday, we'll be messing with all the Chapter 2 tasks and going on from there. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoy your week, and I'll catch you guys soon. Goodbye, everyone.